Hi, I'm your host, Michelle Poverman, a former anxious empath turned mostly grounded psychotherapist, intuitive guide, and energy healer, and this is Into the Work. And it isn't just a podcast, it's your actual invitation to break free from old patterns, end the cycle of your self-abandonment, and finally step into the life your soul has been craving. Each episode is a spark to help you rise higher, to help you shine brighter and reclaim the truth of who you really are. The spark has already been lit. And sister, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's go ignite a fire. Hi there. Welcome back to the show, Into the Work, Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. And this is Michelle Poverman, your host. I'm really feeling the spark of today's episode. And I got so excited that I created this really incredible bundle. At the very end, I'm going to talk about it, but I'm giving you a free gift. So stay to the end so you can find out about this call to action that I have for you. It's called the Courage Codes Bundle, and it's all going to be about there's these really cool things inside that are going to be really powerful to help you step into courage. And let's talk about why this is so important, okay? So I know that we've been talking a little bit last week about being a light worker and what that means. And this is also speaking to the quest or the calling or the spark that lives inside you. And you know that feeling, right? That feeling where there's something deep down that's whispering or maybe yelling that there's more to this. There's something else for you to move towards, even if you don't know what it is yet. And maybe you feel it when you're helping other people, or it stirs inside you when you're alone, or that sort of deep, unexplainable knowing that you're meant for something beyond what is ordinary in your life right now. And that spark, again, it is not random. It's not just some phase. I do believe that the spark that you feel is a summons. And when the universe places that spark inside of you, it's offering you a contract, an agreement that says you were chosen for this. But here's a big question, and I want you to think about this. If the universe is saying to you, there's a spark because you were chosen for this, the question is, now, will you choose it back? Today, we're talking about the courage it takes to say yes to that calling because, oh my gosh, girl, it takes courage. I can't tell you how many times I have had to move forward in courage before I had any confidence at all. And fake it until I make it kind of thing. And while, yes, I do that and it's a place I can go, there have definitely been times because I'm somebody who really, I like to know everything before I move forward. That really trips me up, especially in business where I'm trying to build and reach people and create things. I really like to know it all before I move forward. It's part of my human design even. Like there's this part of me that needs to understand so that I can feel ready. But this whole spark thing, this whole answering the calling thing, honestly, I think it's actually asking us to move forward when we aren't ready, because readiness doesn't actually truly always come for most of us. It's really just avoidance. But today we are going to talk about that courage that it takes to say yes before you feel confident, right? Before you feel ready. And also a little nugget of gold that we're going to talk about today is how your resistance that you have, which is usually fear-based, but it doesn't always look like that. And that sometimes that resistance isn't necessarily a sign you're off track. Sometimes it is, but many times I want you to reframe it like a rite of passage into who you're becoming. And we're going to talk about what that connection could actually be. And yes, spiritual though this sounds, this is real research behind it. In psychology, courage is defined as acting despite fear. And we're going to talk a little bit about what this courage can actually do for you and what it does for people. So the spark is inside you. Here you are. Every lightworker, healer, and helper has this moment, I think, when they sense a shift. At some point, previously, if you can think back in your life, you felt or sensed a shift of change happening. A point when something inside you says, this is the work I'm here to do, right? Or this is something I have to do, or I'm really feeling called for this. But too often we wait for confidence before we can feel like stepping into it, right? So we tell ourselves, I'll do it when I'm ready. But the truth is confidence is actually the outcome. It's the final step. The first step is actually courage. And courage is how you actually signed to that contract with your soul to come down here and do this thing. The spark, that feeling that won't go away, is the universe extending an invitation for partnership. Think of it that way, right? That little nudge you feel, that spark, that idea is an invitation for partnership. It says, I will provide, the universe says, I will provide the opportunities. I'll provide the people. I'll provide the moments of alignment, but I need your yes. And it needs your action steps. And that yes is not necessarily have to be like loud and dramatic. Oftentimes, many of us, anybody you admire will tell you, anybody that you admire doing something that you'd really love to do will tell you they trembled, that they were shaking at some point and when they stepped into it and did it quietly, or they did it like feeling like they're going to pass out. I mean, even Adele will talk about before she goes on stage that she many times used to vomit because she was so anxious, but she did it anyway, right? Crazy. So confidence grows as a reward for our willingness. And so a lot of us, I know you've maybe heard this out there in the world, courage before confidence. But I really want to break down the understanding that confidence is something logically that just comes later. You don't get confident over something you've never done before. I mean, we can have confidence in our core. It can be one of our core strengths. Not all of us have that as a core strength right away, but it is definitely available to all of us through action steps, okay? And let's consider this. When you feel the spark, you're being invited to take spiritual responsibility, not for others, but for what wants to move through you, okay? So we talked about that pact that you have with the universe, and there is something that wants to move through you. That means honoring your gifts. It means showing up for your calling, probably with some consistency, even when you doubt your worthiness. Even if you have imposter syndrome, even if you feel like, oh, who am I to think this? It means recognizing that this light isn't yours to hoard or hide. You were chosen, but you still have to choose back every day through your actions. And this is what separates a dreamer from a lightworker who goes out in the world and creates something really beautiful that impacts people. And some way, as I've been talking to you as lightworkers lately, because I'm really embracing this word a lot more, I think as lightworkers, many of us, we can believe in the light. We can believe we see the light in other people. We can feel like we carry a higher vibration. That's our goal. But here's the deal. We are the steward of such light. We are here with a consciousness that allows us to share our gifts and truly have an impact in the world for good. And so when your fear rises, when you question if you are good enough, if you're skilled enough or visible enough, I want you to remember that the spark didn't choose you because you were ready. The spark chose you because you were willing. There was a point in time, if you can just wrap your earthly brain around the possibility that these little things that seem like, maybe they even seem meaningless, but these things that inspire you, these things that are growing within you, these sparks, that on some level, potentially, way before you even came down here, you were like, oh yeah, these are the things I'm going to do. This is what I want to play with. This is how I want to express myself. This is how I want to grow in this life. This is how I want to, leave a legacy. This is how I want to really impact the world while I'm there. And so perhaps you were very willing to do this thing. And now here you are, little soul down here on earth, and you are actually having to make the choice of whether or not you are willing. And at one point you were. So the spark didn't choose you because you were ready. It chose you because you're willing. And can you do that again? So let's talk about resistance, because that's what gets in the way of our willingness. The biggest thing that gets in the way of our willingness truly is our resistance. And because the moment you say yes to your calling, honestly, resistance usually shows up to greet you at the door, right? Like it is right there. It's like, yes, on Monday, I'm feeling amazing. This is incredible, right? But by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're like self-doubt. You're like procrastination. You're like storytelling. I can't do this. I have to do this, right? Distraction, sudden exhaustion. You get sick, right? Oh my gosh, that was my story, right? Every time I set a big goal for myself, I'd get sick. So all the things that make you question, is this a mistake? I don't know if I should do this. But what if resistance isn't a sign you're failing? What if it's the initiation itself? So bear with me. Sometimes resistance is intelligence. I believe that all emotions are intelligence. It is our GPS of how we should move forward. And sometimes there are emotions that come up that really slow us down, back us up, make us stop and think, is this right for me? There are reasons why we have those things. And so I treat all emotions like they are intelligence. But I want to embrace this as well, okay? What if resistance, again, is not a sign that you're failing, but it's actually an initiation? In every rite of passage, there was always a guardian at the threshold, right? If you think back of like all different kinds of ancient stories, we always hear about the guardian, guarding the gates. Even when you look at mediumship or you look at, lots of spiritual gifts that you use, there's guardians to work with. There's people guarding the gates to protect you and others. What if your resiliency, right, is the guardian at the threshold, a challenge that tests your devotion to what you said yes to? And you have to go through this challenge. You have to go through it in order to get strong enough to say yes and follow through with it. That's what resistance is. Not punishment. It's the proof of your readiness. And you learn the proof of your readiness. It helps you get over the imposter syndrome stuff, because the resistance itself is a rite of passage. So when fear and resistance appear, your soul might just be saying, you're crossing into new territory. Hello. The version of you that played small just can't come with you. Isn't it so interesting? It's like, you think like, okay, I'm going to start a podcast. And then you don't actually sit there and think there is going to be a death of my small self. And then after that, my larger self is going to expand and grow. And then there's going to be another death of that self. And, there's not this depth of thought. You just think, I want to do a podcast, and that's really hard. And all of a sudden you're avoiding it and you're not doing the thing that you said you were excited to do. And then, it suddenly looks like too much, too many steps, too many things to do, too much work. And so you find yourself further and further and further away from feeling very good about your goal. So I want to encourage you to recognize that the initiation of resistance in itself is a death of your small self, the self that does not fit into the identity of who you're becoming. And the identity of who you're becoming next, it needs to go through that. So you have to really show up for your resistance. You have to look at, am I procrastinating? What's my perfectionism? Why am I avoiding? What is happening here? And sink into the emotions there so that you can release them and really recommit over and over again to what you want for yourself and what you want to do out in the world. So instead of asking, how do I get rid of resistance? Try asking, what is this resistance trying to teach me about who I am becoming? What needs to be cleared out? Why am I facing this thing that's showing up and getting in my way? Every new level of service, every new expansion of your light will depend on a new level of surrendering. It's bananas. I'm telling you, it's really a big deal. That's what I'm talking about here today. It's honest. I have I can't tell you how many small deaths I've had and how much surrendering I've had to do. And in the moment, you recognize resistance as like this sacred initiation. You kind of lean into it and you start embracing it and you start paying attention to it and listening to what it has to say and trying to learn from it, all those things. It loses its power to stop you. It's powerful work. So how do you move through this sacred resistance? It's courage. This is not just a feel-good statement, okay? There's so much research on courage out there. I just picked one out of the PubMed universe, right, just to grab a quick study. But there was a study I'm going to mention here. 1,761 employees of high-risk jobs were all in this study. And it showed us that showing up courageously, practicing courage, doesn't just feel right. It literally, physically, and mentally shifts our stress response that we're having in our body. So courage changes your nervous system's wiring for how you're handling pressure. Brené Brown does a lot of great stuff on courage, so you can definitely go check out some of her books. She talks a lot about courage. And really, courage is really what we're seeking here. And that's where all the muscle is. So let's just take a moment right now. I want you to think, like, when have you in your life had courage? This is a really beautiful question. It actually also is known when you ask yourself this question and you reminisce on times that you have courage, actually also rewire your nervous system, help you handle pressure better. Just having the memory of things that you have done in the past with courage allows you to actually move forward and build courage. So the act of choosing back, let's talk about this. So let's bring it back to the contract. The spark that you feel inside is the invitation, right? That's the universe. That's the contract that you had, that you created a lot, before you even got here, that said, here's, 30 things I want to do. I'm down here, maybe 500, I don't know. But the spark is the invitation. It's signaling you. The courage is like your signature to push forward, to really step in and breathe into this thing and move forward in it. But the resistance that you feel is the initiation, right? It is what you have to go through in order to get to the other side and be strong enough to keep moving forward. This resistance is an important part of the journey, and working through it is so important. It's everything. You have to work through it in order to get to the other side. So now comes the daily choice, and that is the choosing back, right? You have been chosen, and now you have to ask, will I choose back? And you have to choose back again, again, again. Choosing back looks like showing up for your work, even when no one's watching. It's setting boundaries to protect your energy. It's saying no to what's misaligned so you can say yes to what's sacred. It's trusting your intuition, sometimes even over logic. It's pushing yourself to do things that are really uncomfortable. It's a lot of things that you have to choose to do over and over again. And especially when you're stepping into something that's new and completely unknown. So I want you to ask yourself right now, where in my life is my spark asking me to choose back? Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's sharing your story. Maybe it's committing to something really big in your life that requires you to go through the initiation. Whatever it is, your courage is the doorway. Your resistance is the guardian at the gate. You must pass through the tests that the guards give you, and then with courage, you can walk through. So many people, every single person, again, that you admire has gone through this process. Even Maya Angelou, even one of the most celebrated writers in history, experienced imposter syndrome every single time she created. This is Maya Angelou. If you don't know Maya, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Maya Angelou has the most beautiful work. She's just an incredible, incredible woman. I have a quote here from her that she wrote, "I have written 11 books, but each time I write, I think, uh-oh, they're going to find out now. I run a game on everybody." That's how she feels. Even our greatest teachers weren't confident. They were just willing, because even though she felt that way and she felt like she was running a game on everybody and they were all going to find out about her, she still kept writing. She still kept showing up and she still kept doing it. And that is some of the most important, that's the most important gold right there that you have in your hand, is this information that so many others before you have gone through this ritual, this whole evolution where small deaths had to happen. They had to get through the gates and get to the other side, and confidence comes later. Courage is what you need. So if you're in a place where you can close your eyes, I want to just have you take a deep breath with me. And I'm just going to say a few words to you so that you can hear them today. I want you to start by just taking a nice deep breath and feel that spark in your heart, that subtle pull forward. And now place your hand on your heart and just say quietly, "I choose this calling. I choose to be a steward of the light that's moving through me. It's not all on me. I am a vessel for this gift. I choose to walk with courage, even when I can't see the whole path." And just take a nice deep breath. And that's it. You've signed your yes. You've signed your contract. Just by saying those words, you've activated or maybe reactivated the contract within you. Because remember, you were never meant to feel ready. It's lovely if you get to say, "Oh, I can think of all these things that I've done before that I actually felt ready." I remember when I started my practice, I have those that don't know me, I have a very healthy, lovely, beautiful, busy practice. And this is such a loving space. And when I took some time off to have some kids and had a little bit of downtime and then was getting ready to open a practice, I hadn't worked for a little while. My husband was like, you're renting out this space. You're, making all these moves. He's like, what's your business plan? And I remember looking at him and saying, well, I wrote on a calendar a few people's names. I think they're all going to come in, these names I made up. And I was telling him, I'm attracting things. I'm going in the flow. And I was saying all these words and he's looking at me like I'm crazy. And he's thinking, okay, I know he was thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen if she can't pay her bills? Right? Because that does impact him, I suppose. So, I did have a certain readiness not because I knew 100% that it was going to be successful. It could have bombed. I had to hustle a little bit at the beginning, but I did have a knowing. I did, right? I had a knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do. I know I'm supposed to do this. I'll leave it and I'll not do anything towards it. And then it keeps haunting me, right? It just keeps coming back. It keeps coming back over and over again. And when things like that happen to you, when they keep coming back over and over again, it's been chosen. It's already happening probably in some parallel universe. You just need to call upon those things. You wouldn't want it if it wasn't for you. I always say that. You weren't meant to be or feel ready per se, or prepared completely, or 100%, in the know. You are just meant to feel called. The universe doesn't choose the confident. It chooses the willing. And you really have to just decide whether or not you're willing to do this thing that's in your heart. And have to ask yourself, am I willing? Because if you say, I am willing, then it's already enough to begin. You're enough. Your willingness is enough. And you just have to say, what is step number 1? What is step number 2? What is step number 3? Break it down into tiny bites. When you meet resistance this week, I don't want you to fight it. I want you to recognize it as your rite of passage, your sign that you are walking the exact path you were born for, Okay? You were chosen. I want you to choose it back and keep choosing one courageous step at a time. Now, if this episode stirred something inside you, that is your spark speaking to you. And you have got to head over to the show notes and you've got to grab my Courage Codes bundle. So what I put together is a brief activation journal, right? I call it the Spark Activation Journal. It's just a few guided questions for you to reflect on that are important. And there really is something about putting pen to paper and getting your thoughts out onto something. And for those of you that hate journaling and saying, I won't do it, Michelle, I don't like writing things down, then fine. You can take the questions and you can meditate on them, or you can do something else with them that feels right for you, but you need the energy moving by looking at this stuff. And then I also have the confidence meditation, a guided experience to ground your energy and just waken up some of your soul's bravery energy. We're just going to do that really briefly. But then I also have something that I adore, and that is the Courage Codes wallpaper collection. And so it's 5 sacred phone wallpapers. I'm calling them the Courage Codes because they're all affirmations that you can keep anchored in your light, anchored in your courage throughout the day, because you can put it on the wallpaper on your phone. So every time you pick up your phone, you'll be able to look at it and get inspired again and remember, this is why I'm willing to do this right here. And you can choose which, and you can switch them out, or you can choose which one you want to put on your phone to just remind yourself, you look down at your phone, what's important for you to focus on right now. So that is the Courage Codes bundle. That's all going to be together, and you can get that in the show notes. I, as always, am so appreciative of you. I hope this spoke to you in some way. I hope it stirred up some of the goodness that needs to get stirred up. You know, we need to hear it in community sometimes. It takes a village. We need to listen, and we need to breathe it in, take it in. And I hope you were able to get something today that just kind of sparked for you to remember how important this is for you to get through your resistance and to really push forward in answering the call, right? That you've chosen. You know, maybe many of your ancestors behind you are cheering you on and really looking forward to, you know, you doing the thing in this life. And so thank you again. And I hope you have a beautiful week. I'll see you next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on Into the Work, Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the podcast and leave a review. It is the best way to spread this healing work to other women. Your presence here matters. Step into your power, heal your soul, and rise with women who are doing the same. Keep joining us every week, and together we can heal the world. If you're ready to dive deeper, grab your free Shadow Work Transformation Bundle in the show notes, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.